Fight fans, Carl Prusa, MMA. We're back today. We're with one of the breakout stars of last year's PFL World Tournament. He is making his return, first time fighting in 2026, fighting in San Diego this weekend, taking on Sarvarjon Khamidov. He is Mr. Justin Wetzell. Justin, what's up, my friend? How are you?
What's going on, brother? I'm doing great, man. It's good to be back. I'm not just happy to be here, man, but I am happy to be here, man.
Absolutely. Last year, a lot of people really got to know who you were. Amazing run in the tournament, man. I know it didn't work out at the end, but overall, what was that experience like for you?
Oh, man, it was an incredible experience. From getting the call on under 3 weeks' notice, being 33 pounds over, getting the call, having these legendary weight cuts, being a plus 1,500 underdog against one of Khabib's boys and pulling off the upset and going all the way to the finals and almost finishing the job in the 5th round with a crazy flying knee. Didn't quite get there, man, but it's all good, man. It was a blessed year, and I'm very grateful for the PFL for giving me an opportunity, and it's something I'll never forget, man.
It's kind of crazy. Before your first fight in the PFL, you're battling on the regional scene. You were doing the whole LFA thing. And so many people are watching the sport now in this day and age. They understand for the most part what you guys are doing, but they don't see the sacrifices, right? When you fight on the regional scene, you're not making Conor McGregor money. You're staying up late. You're waking up early. It's hard to have a kid. It's hard to have a family. You're putting everything on hold maybe for the chance to get to show like the PFL. You've done it, but what's made you want to stick on and keep sacrificing all throughout the years?
Oh, I mean, think of it like this, man. You take a baseball player. He's been in the minor leagues, AAA, for 8-9 years. He finally gets his call up to the MLB, gets a shot, he's runner up in the World Series, right? Had a great rookie year. You can't just stop now, right? This is just getting started. The way I see it, man, is my career has just started. When you get to the major leagues, that's the beginning. Another example, talking about baseball, when someone gets to the majors, they're not talking about their batting average in the minors or their stats then. They have no stats. Their career's just getting started. So it's the same thing here, man. I can't just break out one year and then call it quits, right? We worked our whole life to get here. We're just getting started, baby.
Absolutely. You train over in the Colorado Elevation Fight Team. You got some killers out there. For you, how do you like training in the altitude out there? How do you like being with that group?
I love it, man. It was the best decision I've made for my career. I moved out there almost 10 years ago now, and the level of training that I get out there is unmatched, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, man. The training partners I have, but also just being a high elevation, man, it really does make a difference with that conditioning. And I'm a pace fighter. I'm in great shape in my fights, and yeah.
One thing I love about watching you fight, you're so much fun to watch. You really like to go for the finish. You have cardio for absolute days. How much pride do you take in your fighting style?
I wouldn't say I really take too much pride in it, man, but I work really hard to make my fighting style work, man. There's really no shortcuts around it. It's really it's hard work and constant dedication to be able to fight like the way I do. I don't consider myself the most talented fighter, but I'm willing to work harder than anyone to get where I'm at.
For you, do you feel that fighting is more mental than it is physical?
Man, that's really hard to say because a big component is mental, absolutely. But you got to have the physical attributes for that mental to really pay off, right? You could be the most resilient guy in your mind, but if you're not strong, if you don't have the physical attributes, cool, it's not really going to help you.
Absolutely. One cool thing with you, whenever we see you weigh in, you're wearing that eyepiece. What was the whole background? What's the whole origins of that?
Yeah, man. So that eyepiece is actually a scouter from an anime called Dragon Ball Z. And growing up as a kid, it was one of my favorite animes growing up. And I just, I resonated with it. But more importantly, it was like try to get eyeballs, man. I know every time I wear that, I get people that come up to me and talk to me. Hey, I love that. I've seen that. It's in this sport, man, it's not so much just about being a good fighter, right? You have to stand out one way or another, and that's just one component of that.
Absolutely. You've been in this journey. You understand it's a roller coaster. There's highs, there's lows. For you,
Yeah.
how do you think you've grown and evolved as a person from competing in martial arts?
It's everything in my life, man. I started this when I was 18 years old, and it's taught me so much from the wins and also from the defeats, man. That being said, I'd much rather learn on a win, right? Like last year's results. You can put everything you absolutely have into it, and you can still fall short, and that's okay. That's just a reflection of life and how things work, brother.
Absolutely. You've been doing this for a long time, competing since your amateur days, like 15 years in the sport, just
Yeah,
competing.
yeah.
People don't realize, man, 20, 25 years ago, this sport was not socially accepted. It wasn't legal at every place. People thought it was human cockfighting. When you first started, do you remember any stories, maybe fighting barns outside, rodeos? Do you have any crazy stories of back in the day?
Oh, my first fight, dude, was in a tiny little bar in Savannah called Hog Dogs, and it fit about 200 people, man. I fought in a community center before. It was like a fight club basement, dude. I remember I was the first fight, and then 5-10 minutes before the event started, it was in January in Illinois, right? So it's freezing, and they have one like propane heater that's heating up this entire basement. It's not doing anything. And right before I'm supposed to walk out, the heater goes out and just gas or whatever smoke just floods this entire basement, dude. And it was such a nightmare. Luckily, the fight lasted 30 seconds. I got my hand raised. It was like my third or fourth amateur fight. But yeah, I got plenty of the Midwest stories. And when I started fighting, bro, there wasn't a commission. There wasn't a commission. You would a lot of like sign the contract, sign the contract. We didn't sign the contract till we got to weigh-ins. You know, it's come quite a long way since then.
I think for a long time, when you told people you're trying to be a professional fighter, if you told them you're fighting anywhere other than the UFC, they're probably looking at you like you're crazy. But now we're in a time where you have promotions like the PFL who are giving all these guys great opportunities. Some of the greatest fighters in the world are the PFL. Do you think the sport has grown and evolved enough where guys can go up there, have a wonderful career, make money for themselves, live out the dream without even fighting in the UFC?
Yeah, absolutely. There's more competition growing. You see it now with like the MVP card, the PFL now with the payouts they do. Yeah, you absolutely can. Now, with that being said, everyone's grandma who doesn't watch fighting knows what the UFC is. Um, there's people that recognize me sometimes when I see them, but the UFC still has that brand power. Once you're a UFC fighter, you can always attach that to your name. So they do have that advantage. But with that being said, PFL, MVP, one championship, even like Octagon MMA in Europe, all these promotions creating competition. There are different pathways and different avenues now where you can fight and make a living doing this. Now, the UFC is going to be the cream of the crop. There's no arguing that. But yes, to answer your question, there's multiple avenues approaching where, a fighter can make a decent amount of money and even make a living and not be in the UFC still.
When you look at the skill level across all promotions, it's absolutely insane in this day and age. And you're seeing guys in their 20s, 23, 24, 25-year-old kids looking very seasoned, looking very experienced. And I think a big difference between now and 15, 20 years ago, kids are starting jiu-jitsu at 6 years old.
Yeah.
Wrestling at 7 years old. In some states, they're doing youth MMA at 12, 13, 14 years old. Is it cool for you to be able to see this and see, you start at a time where a lot of people are picking this up in their mid-20s?
Oh, I'm seeing it right now, man. There's a handful of kids at the gyms I train at right now, man. They're 22, 23, 24, and they're just as good as me, if not better, man. Immediately what sticks out to my mind is there's this kid named Elias Rodriguez. I think he's either 3-0 or 4-0 now. All his fights are in the LFA. He's one of these kids you're talking about. He's been training since he was a young teenager, man. And now that he's like, I think 20, man, he might be like 25 now, but now he's like 25. He's got 12, 13 years of training under his belt, whereas someone like me, I'm 34 and I got 15, 16 years, So it's like, it's scary to see, but it's also very exciting, man. the next generation of kids are monsters.
Absolutely. You've always been a guy, when you look at your topology, you're finding nothing but winning records. When you're on the regional scene, you're always testing yourself, trying to fight the best opponent. Obviously, now in the PFL, there's no easy fights here.
Yeah.
But for you, how much did that mean to you? Always trying to take pride in your record and trying to fight as tough guys as possible.
It's important, man. I'm glad you said that, man, because my strength of schedule is, I'm sure there's somebody with a tougher strength of schedule than myself, but not many. I think my combined opponent record is got to be close to like 90-20 or something. I fought a lot of tough guys, man, and I don't. It just speaks for itself. It you see a lot of guys. Sometimes they'll have a good 10-0, 15-1 record, but the first 10 opponents they fought, their combined opponent record was like 7-30. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, your talent, you will get tested, and the world will know how good you are or are not. But I do take some pride in the fact that I have a very, very, very strong strength of schedule against my opponents, man. This weekend I'm fighting another 16-1 Eastern European.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, taking on Sarvarjon Khamidov. What do you think of him as an opponent?
I think he's my toughest opponent to date, brother. I think he's tougher, a harder fight than Alves for me, especially stylistically. I see a lot of similarities between us. We're both heavy grapplers. We're both trying to like close the distance with big strikes, suppress our opponents against the cage, and ultimately get on top of our opponent. This is a very, very tough fight, man. And in my opinion, Sarvarjon is top 3 in the division. He's 16-1, but I had him winning his last fight. And he popped dirty for one of the fights he won too. So actually, he's 18-0. In my opinion, he's never lost. His last fight, it was a split decision against Magomedov, which is a perennial championship fighter, And I thought he won that fight. So he's a scary guy. With that being said, though, a victory over him does wonders for me and moves me one step closer to that belt. I think a decisive victory over Sarvarjon either grants me a title shot or a number 1 contenders fight for the title.
What I like about this fight, I think both you guys can be very technical at times, but both you guys have shown you like to go for the finish. You like to go for the kill. Could you see a world where this doesn't go the distance?
Yeah, absolutely. I know fans don't like to hear that, but when you get to this level and you're competing at the highest level, it's very much a chess match, and it's going to be hard to find openings against someone like that, right? So a hard-fought battle like this, I think it's very, very possible this goes to a decision. I'm not trying to fight to a decision, but I'm also not trying to force a finish either, Trying to force a finish is what can get you taken down, get you caught with something, especially by a guy as good as Khamidov. So I think this going to a decision is very, very possible. Maybe not. Maybe I start him in 30 seconds, bro, and I'm not even sweating. That'd be so great. But the way I see this, I'm going to be out of breath, limping, bloody coming out of that cage.
Last year you got your name out there. A lot of people in the sport know who you are now. You feel like this is the year that really begins the journey for you?
Well, I think last year was what began the journey, but this is we're just picking up where we left off, man. And ultimately, I want to be a world champion, man. And I was this close to it last year, man. I was so close. But that I'm not satisfied from that. I want to keep this rolling. I want to be a world champion.
If someone would have told you in 2024, after you took out Beksat Uzmanov, that you were going to end up in the PFL, end up being the finalist of the tournament, would have you believed it?
I would have. I have a tweet from, I think it's 2018 or 2019. And it said, when's the PFL going to get a bantamweight division? I'm ready. And we almost were the first PFL bantamweight champ. So I would believe it, man. I really, really, really would.
Absolutely. So many people are watching this day and age. We now have a term called the casual fan. And I think all fans are good for the sport, but now you might
Absolutely.
be at the fights and you might hear twist them in the you know what. You
No,
might read some crazy stuff, hear some crazy stuff. You have all these keyboard warriors. Everyone's drunk brother knows how to fight when you're watching at B-dubs, whatever. What do you make of this? Do you laugh at it? Is just part of it?
it's part of it, man. But if I'm being honest, MMA fans are kind of the worst. That doesn't mean I don't like MMA fans. They without them, the sport wouldn't be going around. But they really are the worst, man. And it's okay talking shit in sports, heckling. It's all part of it, dude. It's just there's a difference between this and a ball sport, right? A guy drops a baseball or a football or doesn't kick a soccer ball. You can tell him you suck. Blah 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 blah. But in this sport, it's so personal. It's human beings getting hurt. So um, it hits a lot harder when you get fucking kicked in the head, and then there's some 300-pound asshole on the internet telling you how much of a piece of shit you are for ruining his parlay. You know what I mean? It's to be expected though, especially when you compete in any sport at the highest level. Bro, my DMs were flooded after I lost that title fight. I had people be like, "Hey, man, you gonna write me a check for $1,000 for busting my parlay?" Like, yeah, man. I just lost $500,000, dude. I'm really upset about your parlay, brother. you know.
I think another really interesting difference between fighting and promotions like the LFA going straight to the PFL, a lot of people don't realize when you're fighting the regional scene, you're also a salesman. You're selling tickets. Do you
Yeah,
miss not having to do that?
I do not miss that. I do not miss that at all. With from having to advertise to talking to people to selling yourself to all the people the day before weigh-ins hitting you up like, hey, you still got that ticket for me? Oh my goodness, bro. Oh my goodness. I don't miss it, man.
I think for the most part, the casuals are starting to understand what you're doing here, trying to win fights, get bigger fights, win belts, win money, all that stuff. Very few people, in my opinion, understand that fight outside of the fight. And that's that fight not to clock in at 9 o'clock in the morning, clock out at 5 p.m. That's that fight to secure financial freedom. That's that fight to live
Yeah,
life on your terms, not follow societal norms, create some sort of goal, and live out the life you're supposed to. Has this been a big part of your journey?
absolutely, man. I haven't worked a regular job in many years, but before I got to the PFL, I still had to make money on the side, whether it was training people, doing odd jobs, working for myself, whatever, man. And that being said, I still do things. Something that this has really taught me is no matter I made more money than I've ever made my entire life last year with the PFL. But that being said, like you still have a sense of purpose. Like even if you have money and do this, you still want more. You still want to keep going. If you're not making money or creating things, you feel kind of like a bum still. So that was an important lesson, man. Like if if you had told me many years ago that I would have made the money I made now and you would not feel content still, I'd be like, you're crazy, dude. How could you not feel that way? But yeah, the point of life, not the point of life, but a big point in life is having purpose, man, and to continue going. That's why I'm here.
Do you feel that even when we get to the point where you hang the gloves up, hopefully years and years down the road, is fighting, is martial arts, some aspect of this always going to be in your future?
Yeah, I'd like it to be, man. I was talking actually to my dad about this the other day, and when fighting's over, I'd like to be able to make money on the side that can support, sustain me, and if I'm successful with that, and I'm making, I don't like to use the word passive income because there's really no such thing. You still have to work to make your income. But if you make like passive income, I'd still like to be around the sport and coach and give my time to other athletes, dude. I love the sport. It's crafted and shaped into who I am today.
One thing I think is interesting by talking to a bunch of fighters is some guys, they have to be all in. All their eggs have to be in the MMA basket. Other guys recognize you can only fight for so long. You don't have a long time where you can compete. You always need to think of something you can do outside of fighting. For you, do you have a take on that?
Yeah, I do actually, and it's both ways, bro. Because God in the universe, in my opinion, will reward you for going all in and putting your eggs in one basket, if you will. The universe will reward you. It will know what you put in. And a piece of me feels like if you got 1 foot in and 1 foot out, you're showing the universe and God that, like, you're not all the way in. Now, with that being said, there's always, like, fighting's not forever. It's a young man's sport. So you do have to have that plan for it. So there needs to be a fine line of being all the way in, but also knowing that something has to come after this too.
How much fun are you having right now doing this?
Dude, this beats anything. This beats any regular job. Dude, I love this, man. I'm like I said, I'm so grateful for PFL for giving me an opportunity. I was the only guy last year in the entire world tournament that hadn't fought in the major leagues. Everyone else in the tournament had at least been on Contender Series, The Ultimate Fighter, previously in the UFC, or previously a Bellator UFC fighter. It's a great life, man, and I'm so thankful.
Absolutely. All right, last question for me, Justin. In a perfect world, what is the outcome June 27th when you return to the PFL Smart Cage against Sarvarjon Khamidov?
Hey, we land that bicycle knee like I did against Alves, except it puts him out this time. Let's go, baby.
Absolutely. Well, Justin, man, thank you so much for taking time out of fight week. Really happy we're able to get this going. Loved everything you're doing, man. I love your story and wish you nothing but the best, man.
Hey, brother, thanks for what you do, and thanks for keeping me in mind, brother. Let's get this.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for us, Dan Carl Perusa. He is Mr. Justin Wetzell. You can watch him fight June 27th. PFL, he's taking on Sarvarjon Khamidov. Don't want to miss it, fight fans. It's going to be a fun one. Take care.
Bye-bye.